BlackPrint Podcast, where purpose meets power, where culture isn't just celebrated, it's constructed. I'm your host, Dr. VaShawn Smith, educator, leader, dream builder. Every episode, we're unlocking the blueprint to elevate schools, shift systems, and empower leaders who know that change doesn't start at the top, it starts within. So whether you're leading a classroom or a community, tap in, lean in, and let's build the future together. Welcome to the BlackPrint Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. VaShawn Smith, school leader, professor, and purpose-driven practitioner. Each week, we follow a blueprint I call mapping: mindset, approach, people, practices, impacts, next steps, and gems to highlight the stories and strategies behind excellence in education. Today's episode is about transformation through steady, intentional leadership. Our title today is The BlackPrint of Incremental Change, Progress, Not Perfection. My guest today is a nationally known principal, Dr. Damon C. Lewis, principal of Ponus Ridge STEAM Academy in Norwalk, Connecticut, the 2025 National Middle School Principal of the Year. Under his leadership, Ponus Ridge has seen remarkable change: a 23% drop in chronic absenteeism, an increase in Latinx and Black students engaging in gifted programs, and PSAT scores that outpace not only the district, the state, but also national benchmarks. Dr. Lewis is a change agent who believes in equity, access, and the power of building culture step by step. His mantra is simple but yet profound: our kids deserve our absolute best, no excuses. Today, we're going to talk about leadership, culture, and what it means to build progress that lasts. So let's jump into it. Dr. Lewis, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Dr. Smith. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm good, man. I'm glad we got a chance to connect. I know we connected in a Leaders of Color National Zoom meeting, talking about some strategies and kind of helping each other. I was like, I got to get this man on my show because he's doing some phenomenal things. I think people need to hear his story. But before we jump into the mapping blueprint, I want to just check in with you. As a school leader, I know it can be very busy and hectic at times. What is the thing that keeps you grounded lately, and what gives back to you because you give so much to other people?
You know what keeps me grounded, Dr. Smith, is my strong faith. My strong faith in my service to my community. It always keeps me grounded. Anytime I'm feeling like I'm having a not so great day, I resort to my office for about 5 or 8 minutes and just say a prayer, thank the Lord, and continue to do the work that He's provided me to do, with the tackle the task that He's challenged me with.
I appreciate that. So like I said, we follow this blueprint I call mapping. We're going to go through each one of the letters in the framework. It kind of helps guide our conversation and keep us focused, and also some takeaways for people. But before we jump into that, also, people, right now, I want you to, one, pull out your pen and pencil, whatever one you choose, get your paper, because Dr. Lewis is going to be dropping some knowledge for y'all. He about to clock some tea. So we need y'all to get those notepads out and get ready to take some notes. But also, go ahead and share this episode with a leader you know who needs a shift in their culture or wants to understand, how do I incrementally change the systems within my building so that I can have a nationally recognized school as well. So Dr. Lewis, let's start with mindset. You said change is one of the few constants in life, and that's it's most powerful when it's delivered incrementally. What mindset drives your leadership, and is the culture of progress? What drives your mindset of leadership from the standpoint of a culture of progress, not perfection?
You know what? Thank you for that question, Dr. Smith. It's always been my habit and my sense of leadership and my personal background that has helped me shape the culture of buildings and change the mindset of the individuals within the buildings. My building is 90% students of color, about 70% free and reduced lunch, and unfortunately, we know those perceptions sometimes and stereotypes that some people feel about black and brown children learning and setting expectations that they can reach. So it all started at the ground level, and it was really, really simple, Dr. Smith. It was, if this isn't the mindset that you're going to have, that all kids can learn, not solely based on the color of their skin or their socioeconomic background, whether they're coming from a mansion or they're living in public housing. If this isn't the place for you and that isn't your mindset, then you have to go. Quite honestly, that was the conversation with some staff and some teachers, and 95% of them got on board. And we started with that incremental change by actually looking to remove people that didn't fit that mindset, a culture of all kids learning, of all kids having access to high quality instruction, and engagement strategies within the classroom to help them prepare for the future.
I appreciate that. I want to take a pause real quick and kind of dig into that a little bit, because I read some of the stats about your school, in the intro, PSAT scores that are outpacing, like I said, not just your district, not just the state, but national benchmarks. Like, you're doing some phenomenal work. And then to hear that not that your students are students of color being led by African-American leader, like, that's a powerful thing. Give me a little bit about your story of how long you've been at your school. What was it like when you took over, where you're at now? Talk a little bit maybe about how you've had to maybe transform your team to get a team that could give some of those data points that we talked about in the intro.
Right. Quite honestly, I from a leadership standpoint, and I shared this with somebody the other day, I find it really, really hard if you don't take your position personally. I'm not the type of leader that leaves at 4 or 5 o'clock and leaves the work at my desk. I do bring a lot of personal background into my story and helping lead our building. My family was my parents got divorced actually when I was in 8th grade, Dr. Smith, and 4 years later, my dad was tragically shot and murdered in the city that I went to high school in. So I take a lot of that with me in my leadership role and the things that I do. I also attended a large urban high school, and I graduated 8th in my class. Yet I went to the University of Connecticut, and I was in a non-credit math class. Now here I am, graduating 8th in my class, top of my class coming out of high school, but I was in a non-credit math class. So I was, and I am still the living achievement gap that we all talk about closing, the achievement gap, the opportunity gap, the wealth gap, the economic gap, whatever gap you want to say in education or social justice. I was that gap. So a lot of that personal work drives me to help kids in my building not have to face that situation by giving them access to everything that they need above and beyond. I've been at my school. This is year 15 for me. This is my 11th year as a principal. I served 4 years as an assistant principal. I've only been in this building in Norwalk. I had previous stints as a school counselor in a suburban district and as an English teacher, and actually in the high school that I graduated from. So a lot of my work is grounded in, some personal strategy that has led to some professional triumphs, using that as an impetus to help kids, all kids, but specifically students of color, access their dreams and reach their expectations, right? Despite or in spite of the situation that they may come from. There's a lot of external factors that our kids come to school with, and it's really, really important that our teachers are culturally competent in knowing where the kids come from and the things that they go through. And it doesn't matter what color you are as a teacher, what your ethnic background is. I just ask our teachers and our staff members to be culturally competent so they can understand the inner workings of some of our students and the expectations that we still must continue to have, because we know oh so well that the world isn't going to feel sorry for us or give us anything for free. We have to work and grind for everything possible. And that type of mindset, Dr. Smith, is instilled in my staff and the people around me as my admin team.
I appreciate that, Dr. That you put a lot into that, and I want to try to unpack some of that a little bit more and kind of pull out a couple of those things.
Sorry.
No, hey, this content is writing itself with you. You are giving me a lot, and you're giving the listeners a lot to kind of really pull from. And I say that from the standpoint of just recently, I was talking with a friend of mine who's also in education. We were just kind of talking about just life and where we are and how we're blessed to be in the places we are. And I told, I just happened to make a comment. Sometimes we make comments and it becomes a bar. But right. I said, one of the things that I think connects me to the work that I do so much, being principal at Grandview High School, is I try not to forget where I come from. I went from the projects to principalship.
Amen.
Like I was that kid raised by my grandmother because my mom was in prison for selling dope. My dad was a crackhead. You talk about an oxymoron right there. My mom was a dope dealer. My dad was a crackhead. And right. To overcome all those odds, and one of the top, if not the top, I'm still processing it days later, was I remember being that kid in high school who never could look up in the stands and see a family member watching me play football on the field. Mm-hmm. And we had homecoming here recently, and for two of my senior girls who was running for homecoming queen to come to me and ask me to escort them onto the field because their parents wasn't in the stadium was our life coming full circle for me. What somebody did for me, I was now able to do, but do from a place of I know what it felt like to be that kid.
Amen.
You know, and I think you talked a lot about that by using our pain and letting it fuel our purpose. It's kind of where I wanted to really get to. And that's what I heard a lot about what you were talking about. And I keep getting drawn to that picture behind you, which is a very, very, very powerful picture. And not just in the course of for African Americans, in the course of American history.
Yes, sir.
What transpired with, Dr. Martin Luther King, who is one of the people that's on what I call my Mount Rushmore of leadership, the people that I strive to be like, up there with the likes of Principal Confele and Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, is also on there as well. So I appreciate you giving us some background on who you are, not just as a leader, but as a man who stands in the place of power and purpose to lead the next generation of Black and brown students, show them what too is possible if they just believe. So I appreciate you giving us that. Let's talk about approach next. And like I said, we talked a little bit about the mindset, and I think right off of that, we get into our approach. So your approach at your school has been very intentional. Like I said, you've been there for 15 years, 11 years as the principal in that school. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure a pillar and a staple in that community at this point. Let's go. When you went out to say, we're going to set a goal to focus on absenteeism and equity and advanced programming for our students and strengthen the culture where what I would say is every day counts for our kids. How did you design this approach, and what made you commit to incremental change when so many leaders want immediate change?
You know what I've learned in my short time as a leader, and I say 15 years isn't a long time, but I've gained a lot of wisdom. Small and incremental change is more sustainable than the fast change that sometimes leaders seek. Fast change, I say, is fleeting. It's not sustainable. It can end in a day. It can end with one person on your team going to another job or another position. So we really focused on the small incremental changes. In terms of absenteeism, Dr. Smith, we brought it down to our homeroom teachers. We started on that grassroots, ground roots level. If a homeroom teacher noticed or a kid was absent 2 consecutive days, it's an automatic email home to the family and the parent, automatic. Based off of that, we also formed an attendance team, which meets every week. Our attendance team is headed by our dean of students, our assistant principal, our 3 grade level counselors, and our social worker. And they follow up with draft letters home, first letter, second letter. And quite honestly, sometimes we do have to talk about bringing in outside agencies. In Connecticut, it's DCF, Department of Children and Families. That's our absolute last resort. But in between those steps, Dr. Smith, we make home visits. We leave the school during the day and we jump in our cars and we bang on the kids' doors and we, let them know that we care about them. And we bring them bags of food because we have a food pantry in our building to help feed families. So we make sure that we hit all the social emotional tabs, but also the human tab, that we truly care about you and that you truly need your education in order to have some type of opportunity to be successful in this world. As I noted previously, we're not getting any handouts. We're not getting them. We have to create our own path. We have to stay prayerful and positive and productive and do the things in our life that have led us to this point. And getting kids in school is the best thing for our kids now. I see education as a great equalizer. So having kids in our building, offering the courses that we offer, it has made our building much more attractive in terms of the amount of kids that are in our building. Currently now we actually have a waiting list to get in grade 6 and grade 7. And we're really, really close in grade 8. So we have open choice in our district. So the drop in chronic absenteeism, the programming, the after school clubs that we offer, the sense of belonging, our school-wide data has really helped decrease that chronic absenteeism number. In terms of our numbers in our gifted and talented programs, the building I work in is about 67% Latinx. And we did a deep data dive a couple years ago. We noticed that our numbers in our gifted and talented program were disproportionate, based on our overall population. So one of our school-wide goals, straight out, was to increase the number of Latinx students in our gifted and talented program. And having been a member of the Gifted and Talented Committee in the district, I really took this to heart, and we started screenings, 2 to 3 times, into our school year. So typically in Norwalk, what would happen is if you take a test in third grade, you're automatically identified as gifted and talented in third grade. And if you didn't get in third grade, you were done for the rest of your career. And I said, no, that's got to change, because there's a lot of hidden gems in our building. So we implemented this 2 or 3 times a year screening where kids can nominate themselves, parents can nominate themselves, teachers can nominate kids, and we really mine the gold. And we found some hidden gems, and not hidden gems, gems in our building that should have been in those gifted and talented seats in third grade, but they weren't. So we took those intentional steps, Dr. Smith, and during the school year, we changed schedules. We don't wait until the next year. We want to be deliberate in our approach and intentional in what we're doing to help kids catch up and reach grade level standards and enrich their middle school experience. So if a kid is identified for gifted and talented at the end of September, or end of our benchmark, our district benchmark, that kid is in a gifted and talented program the first week in October. We do the same thing with accelerated math. The number of female students we wanted to increase, and we changed student schedules right there. If you meet the criteria and you fit the bill, our approach is we're not going to wait. We're going to be deliberate and intentional in everything we do. And our team is truly, truly bought into that.
So again, you hit on a lot of things. And I want to kind of put on a couple of different strings in your answer. The one thing I love that you're doing, and I think it's just a national thing that we just do, where that third grade benchmark for gifted is kind of just where we set the stage at. Like, kids don't blossom and bloom in 4th, 5th, 6th, 9th grade and get the thing. And I'll just give. I felt that way. Shout out to Miss Kern Blystone. Miss Kern Blystone was my high school principal. I graduated high school in 1998, and I still remember Miss Kern Blystone, who was my high school principal. I started high school out in this program, basically where they would have us go to school and then half a day, and we would do just the core subjects: math, social studies, science, ELA. And then you could either go get a job, or you can work in the building, in the cafeteria, helping with the janitor, stuff like that. Basically saying, like, these are kids who probably aren't going to college, so we're going to get them them work skills now to kind of go on. And on my part, I didn't, I got expelled in 8th grade, but I was never a dumb kid, and she saw that in me and saw something in me and how I was breezing through the work in that program. And second semester, moved me into a regular schedule. And then in my sophomore year, put me in honors classes. So opportunities that sometimes people miss, like you said, mining for gold later on in the kids' thing, because even when they take those gifted tests in 3rd grade, that kid could have had a bad morning.
Right.
That kid could have had a bad weekend. His mom could have been in the hospital. So when do we give an opportunity to say, when can you show me your best effort? And you may not qualify for all components of gifted, but the ones that you do, we're going to help feed you in those areas as well. So I really appreciate hearing you talk to that piece of it as well. I want to kind of talk a little bit further. I want to come back to another thing in a second, but I want to give you a chance to talk to this here, because you talked about a lot of shift changes that you've done, system changes, mental changes, stuff like that. When you're making those changes, how do you know when you want to guide the work and when you sit back and let the work breathe on its own?
That's a great question. As a school leader, I think that's something that we all tussle with, that leadership juxtaposition of, when am I too hands-on, when am I micromanaging, and when do I trust the people around me, right, who I've hired to do the work that needs to get done. There's certain things that I really like to keep my hands in full throttle, Dr. Smith. I'm a big proponent of teacher teams and data analysis, so I really keep my hands on that as the instructional leader of the building. There's some things that I leverage to our instructional coaches and our assistant principal and our dean. So there's things that we take and we leverage different people and work from, not working from a deficit mindset, but working from an asset mindset. So I'm going to work towards your strengths, and I'm going to put you in a position always to be successful. And I will check in with you bi-weekly, right? Maybe monthly, depending on what the task is, to see what support you need, to see how I can help, to see if we need to bring anyone else into the mix to consult with, to make sure that we do it right the first time. Again, that's that incremental change, and not just saying, okay, we're going to do this overnight and see if it works, and throw spaghetti to the wall and see what sticks. That's not what our kids deserve. As you know, our kids deserve our absolute best, and I can't say it enough. So if it's going to take a month or so to get people not only on the bus, but in the right seats, I'm a big fan of Jim Collins in Good to Great and Great by Choice. He talks about not only getting people around you on the bus. Now, once you identify those people on the bus and their specific skill sets and how they can help move your organization, it's up to us as principals to put them in the right seats. Maybe this particular teacher has a skill set where they can leave the classroom, they can be your literacy coach, or maybe you're one of your teachers you can see as a teacher lead or a grade level lead. So it's getting the not only getting the people on the bus, but put them in the right seats so they can help push the organization forward. And again, that's not a fly-by-night knee-jerk thing. I talk a lot in our building about there's a difference between a response and a reaction, right? So we want to make sure we respond to the needs of our building and our community members, and we can't respond appropriately, Dr. Smith, if we're making knee-jerk reactions.
Powerful stuff there. People. I hope y'all caught all them knowledge that he was dropping for y'all. But if you didn't, just go ahead back, hit the rewind button, go back a couple seconds and hear it again. Because I'm telling you, you're not gonna get this all in one sitting. You're gonna have to really sit with it and let some of this stuff resonate. And once again, make sure you share this with another leader who can use some of this wisdom that Dr. Lewis is dropping for y'all this morning. So I'm going to pull on the string that you talked about in your approach, but it goes into our next piece of the framework that talks about people. I'm a huge University of Michigan fan. I believe maize and blue. One of the greatest coaches of all time is Bo Schembechler. And Bo Schembechler had a saying, the team. And you've talked several times about the people that you have surrounded yourself with. And I know you got up there and you got to get the award, and I don't want to assume, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, but when you stood up there, that award wasn't about Dr. Lewis. That award was about the people that helped Dr. Lewis get that vision up and going, because it's not your vision, it's the school's vision. So I want you to be able to talk a little bit about the people that help shape the culture of your building, but also the people that help you become who you are as Dr. Lewis, mentors, family, colleagues. Who are those people that helped you get to the place you are where you can change the entire outcomes of the Black and brown students in your school?
Wow, that's a big loaded question. I'm gonna take it by chunks. I'm gonna do it incrementally, Dr. Smith. I'll do it incrementally. The people in my life, I've been fortunate enough to have some really strong mentors and role models in my life. I pointed to my dad. Again, my dad was murdered in 1989, but my dad was also an educator. My dad was worked in the same high school that I attended. My dad was my high school football coach for 3 years. My dad was my high school basketball coach for 3 years. So we really had a close bond. But all the things that I learned from my dad, the consistency, the continuity, the teamwork, the collaboration, the framework around what it looks like to be successful, what it sounds like to be successful, and what it feels like to be successful, just exuding that confidence. I was fortunate enough, Dr. Smith, to receive a football scholarship to the University of Connecticut. So I played football at UConn, and I was the captain of the team my senior year in college. I don't talk about that a lot, but it did shape me. It shaped the discipline and the focus on things that are important right now and making the thing. You talked about Bo Schembechler and the team. I'm really, really big on core values, Dr. Smith, and your core values, which I learned from my dad and other people around me, which I'll talk about in a second. Your core values are your core values are your core values. You should have 2 or 3 core values that are non-negotiable. And your core values are the same at home, at work, and in your community. If you have different sets of core values to fit your environment, I would say that you're being disingenuous to yourself and to the people that you serve. You are who you are, who you are. And you don't have to tell someone what your core values are. They should be able to read it by your actions, right? By your words and by your behaviors and the way that you're serving others. In addition to my dad, I've had, really good high school basketball coaches, Charlie Bentley. I talk about Steve Nelson and Keith Pierce. During the time my dad was murdered, I surrounded myself with a lot of positive people. That's something I never ever went to counseling. I just kind of, pulled myself up by the bootstraps and sucked it up. But without the people I surrounded myself with from a familial standpoint, it would have been really, really difficult. My wife, Keisha, has been fantastic. We've been together since 1989. We have 3 beautiful children together, Elijah, Naya, and Soraya. So she's been a really, really strong support in my life and continues to be. In terms of my building, I'm not a big ego person, Dr. Smith. I've always said that the awards that I've won, they're we awards, capital letter we, and I'm not afraid to hire people that are smarter than I am. I tease my assistant principal all the time. I say, you're smarter than me, but I'm wiser. I've got the wisdom, but you're smarter. I think that's a big component of being a leader is coming into the work with an ego-less sense and just finding what drives you, the passion behind the work. We often talk about our why and what our why is in leadership and leading and helping people. So my team at work, I've made sure that I've hired people and put people in a place that are opposite me and have different skill sets. So when we do come together, our superpowers come together, they're really, really, we're really a super team. And I had to do that, Dr. Smith, because our elementary feeders that feed into our school, that used to traditionally, we're open choice now. They were the 3 lowest performing elementary schools in the district. They were. And then they came into our building, Ponus. So that's why I wanted to highlight the mark in our 8th grade PSATs, because it just showed the growth, right, and the achievement that when kids came in 6th grade, they were at a certain grade level proficiency. And through all the work of the team and the teacher teams and feedback and observations and the protocols that we have put in place, by the time they were in 8th grade, they outpaced the nation, the state, and our district. So it just goes to show when you implement change in a way that it's constant, but it's incremental, and you hire people around a skill set and don't get blinded by what's on a resume, but actually seeing if they are a good fit for your learning community, it's a home run. And I often use the example, of, finding the right people and the right fit. I'm a huge Michael Jordan fan. I think he's the best basketball player ever. And I debate that with anybody. But when he was drafted, Michael Jordan didn't go number 1 in the draft. The Portland Trailblazers had a chance to select him, I believe, and they didn't select him because they already had a player that was very similar to Michael Jordan, Clyde Drexler. So it would not have been a good fit to have 2 of the same type of players on that team. It's the same way in leadership. It's really, really tough to have 2 people with the exact same skill sets. You're almost wasting the body. So it's our job as leaders to find people that have skill sets different than ours. And that takes an ego-less approach to the work and the things that have to get done in your respective communities.
That's I've interviewed quite a few different people on this show, from James Aldrich, who was the Maryland Principal of the Year, Dr. Beth Huff, who was the 2022 National Principal of the Year. So I've had some, and the theme continues to be consistent when it comes to talking about their team and the people around them philosophy that I believe in. I forget where I read it, was that you always hire your weakness.
Yes.
You always hire your weaknesses. You want to hire, and I have a new AP team. That 3rd year of my high school I'm at now. The AP team I got when I got there, none of them are gone. They're all gone now. So I have a new team. And I remember we were having a conversation early on this summer as we were kind of starting to figure out who was going to do what and trying to figure out how we fit together in that role. And I sent them something that I've been working on. It was like, hey, look at this over, give me some feedback, tell me what needs to be edited, changed. And, they have sent me back saying, oh, it's good, and this had happened like 2 or 3 times. So I had to pull them in and say, when I send you something, I'm sending it to you for you to see the blind spots I don't see, for you to poke holes in it, for you to give me a perspective I'm not thinking about. If it wasn't good, I wouldn't have sent it to you. I knew it was good when I sent it to you.
Right.
But that's not what I'm sending to you to give me the thumbs up. I need you to say, hey, did you think about this? Hey, one of my APs is fresh out of the classroom, was a teacher last year. So you still have that fresh teacher perspective in your head. I haven't been a teacher in the classroom for 13 years. So we always want to feel like we're still connected to the classroom, but the longer you're away, you lose some of that. So I had to really sit down with them and say, I'm not looking for yes men. I'm looking for people to challenge my thinking. And it has totally shifted the way that we operate now as a team, where it's like, I need y'all to disagree with me.
Mm-hmm.
Like iron sharpens iron. If we don't come up in it and we don't butt against each other, none of us are going to grow. Mm-hmm. And then in turn, our kids are not going to get what they got in that process. So hearing you said that piece about, yeah, we want people to think back. And I've had that same conversation. Like Miss Byrne, one of my APs, and she's been in this building, the building I'm in, for 17 years. We did an episode with her. She went from a substitute teacher to now being the assistant principal in the same building in that span of time. And I tell her, I said, you have a lot of knowledge and wisdom that I don't have, but I bring a lot of experience from being an administrator, and we both can help each other grow, because you're going to bring a skill set that I have that I don't have, and I'm gonna bring one that you want. My other two APs who are with me, like I said, one's a brand new AP, the other one's been an AP for 10 years, and they work closely together because, once again, you have skill sets that each of you can help each other grow in that process, that procedure. So love hearing you talk about that. So I want to jump into the next piece of our framework, which is practices. And at Ponus Ridge, I feel like at your school, you've embedded some practices that turned the culture around, that went from culture shifter to now, which is just daily expectations, a part of the work that y'all do. From the absenteeism stuff that you talked about, expanding opportunities for all students, celebrating progress and things like that. Can you walk me through maybe two specific practices that you feel shifted the systems in your building?
Sure, I can select 22, but I'll go with two. One thing, as building leaders, our first job and foremost is as the instructional leader of the building. I supervise English Language Arts and Social Studies, but I make sure I stick my head. I'm in every single classroom. Dr. Smith, I spend a lot of time in classrooms. I'm very rarely in my office. My office is pretty much storage space, to be quite honest with you, because I'm never in there. One of the biggest practices that we had to make sure that we alluded to is making sure that all students have access to grade level standards in their classroom. And one of the strategies that we make sure that teachers are employing is every classroom that you walk into in the Ponus Ridge STEAM Academy, we call it the Big Three. Every classroom on the blackboard or the view sign has to have the grade level standard, the objective, and the criteria for success. Again, it goes back to being intentional and deliberate about what we want our students to know and what we want our students to learn, but also having that student voice so they know exactly, by the end of this class, you should be able to do X, and I know that I did X because this is what my assessment said. So those big three have been really, really, really important in driving the shift in our building and what kids can do and what kids are provided with opportunities to do. And yes, we have some kids that come in below grade level, but we never, ever, ever have a kid that's sitting in the 7th grade class working on a 5th grade standard. Never. We have kids in 7th grade class working on a 7th grade standard with scaffolds and differentiated tasks in front of them to help them cross that bridge to support that grade level standard. But we're not going to have kids sitting in the back doing a crossword puzzle when everyone else is reading Stargirl or Hatchet in grade 6 or doing The Raven, Edgar Allan Poe in grade 8. So those are just some intentional shifts that we've made. Where we find ourselves sometimes, I think, as instructional leaders, that we're oftentimes trying to, all the time actually, we're trying to accelerate and intervene simultaneously. So we're trying to accelerate the kids that need to be accelerated, that maybe they're in that 8th grade class and they're studying Edgar Allan Poe and they're reading The Pit and the Pendulum and The Raven and things of that nature, but they need to be pushed a little bit more. And they may get in that classroom an independent study around suspense and mystery and creating their own novel. But in that same classroom, there may be someone who's having some difficulty accessing that grade level standard and reading Poe. So we give them scaffolds and we translate all of our materials into Spanish or French or Haitian Creole. We're not letting kids just sit there and not get what they need to be successful. So that's one major instructional shift in our building. And the teachers have, risen to the occasion. And the kids, right? Again, I talked earlier about the stereotypes that sometimes people have and the expectations about Black and brown kids from lower income neighborhoods, the kids are going to meet the expectation if you said it. When you said it, they will reach it. If you don't said it, they're going to expect less. So we expect more and we get more. One of our organizational strategies that we've implemented, we do have a school-wide PBIS system, and that is an electronic system where students are awarded points for being caught doing something right, for lack of a better term. And we have assemblies and we have attendance assemblies and PBIS assemblies where kids get awards and they get celebrated on a quarterly basis. And it's really helped increase the level of engagement in our student population. Another shift that we've had has been in the number of course offerings that we offer for kids. We're offering kids in middle school, every sixth grader must take coding. We offer robotics. We offer, we also offer music technology. We offer immersive media. We offer a cybersecurity course. So all these changes have made our school much more attractive and have led families to, truly believe in the shifts that are happening at Ponus Ridge STEAM Academy. And I will tell you that Ponus wasn't always seen in this light, Dr. Smith. I'll be fully transparent as I have been. People would really run away from Ponus. I'm not sending my kid to Ponus, but because of these incremental shifts and because myself and our admin team, we literally drew a line in the sand and said, enough is enough. Enough is enough. We've got kids that we need to serve, and we're not going to, sit back and let things happen by chance. So I always say, in education, hope and faith aren't strategies. Hope and faith are not strategies in education. We have to be deliberate and intentional in the practice that we employ so our kids benefit from it.
Powerful stuff there. Powerful stuff, people. And like I said, here on the BlackPrint, we always want to give you tangible takeaways to take back to your school and incorporate right away. And I'm going to give you one that he talked about, just in case you missed it, because he dropped a lot. But if you need one, the big three is what he called it. Mm-hmm. Standard, objective, and the criteria for success. What is the grade level standard we want kids to hit? What's that objective for that lesson? And then what do kids know what they need to do to be considered successful? So if you don't take nothing away from anything he said, if you can just go back and put those big threes and I'm telling you, it's going to transform things. And he said, in every classroom, it needs to be up. When I walk into a room, I need to see the big three. And that's a non-negotiable. So that piece, if you can go back and take that back to your school and get that up and going, you're going to see, I think, some immediate changes and turnaround and just the level of instruction in your classrooms. What's right along with that, because I know you've had some impact with that big three shift, just that by itself, but you got a lot going on. Because the impact in your school is undeniable. Like I said, we talked about the chronic absenteeism that's gone down. We talked about more students of color in gifted programs. Female students, you talked about taking accelerated math courses in your school. National recognition that your school has had. If you had to pick one, and this is going to probably push you. If you had to pick one, what is the most impactful thing you are proud of in your building?
If I had to pick one thing and land on one thing, we implemented something years ago called Walkthrough Wednesdays. And if you ever want to change the narrative in your building, or you want to increase the positive talk in your building, I would challenge you. And I don't like to use the word challenge. I'd rather use the word opportunities to grow. We don't talk about challenges at Ponus, just opportunities to grow and get better. I would say, well, on Walkthrough Wednesdays, let me go back. We open the doors the first Wednesday of every month to anyone that wants to come into our building from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock in the morning for a walking, talking tour with the entire admin team. So we block out that first Wednesday of every month from 9 to 10. We calendar it, and we open the doors for anyone that wants to come in. And we send that email out to community agencies, to elementary schools, to our elementary feeders, to our central office staff. And we get 30 to 40 people that first Wednesday of the month. And again, being intentional and deliberate, I want people to come into our building so they can see it in real time. That's been a game changer, because once they come into the building and they walk through the hallways and they see there's 655 kids in that building, and there's not one kid in the hallway, and everyone, we're walking by classrooms, going into classrooms, and they're seeing kids, right? Students of color engaged in high level work, critical thinking, sitting and working in groups, creating their own questions, right? It is a game changer. So again, walk through Wednesdays, huge impact on our building, and the way that we've attracted more families and kids into our building. I mean, it's easy to, have families come in after hours at 3 or 4 o'clock when the building's empty. But no, we say pressure is a privilege in our building. We do. I do put a lot of pressure on staff. I do. But, pressure is a privilege. But pressure also creates diamonds, right? So we found that middle ground, Dr. Smith, in letting families and community members in. And they actually do the recruiting for you. They'll go back and they'll tell their friends and other people, hey, I went to Ponus Ridge STEAM Academy and I did a walkthrough, and they offer this and they have this and they have so many things that kids can do. There's 11 elementary schools in our district, Dr. Smith, and I have kids from 10 of the 11. So we're doing a pretty good job in terms of getting people in for walkthrough Wednesdays, and it's a simple practice. I like to do things that are low cost, no cost, right? It costs nothing to open your doors, right? To say hello, welcome people in, and walk through the entire building. So that's been one of the biggest things that we've done. If I could talk about a half a thing, I greatly appreciate it. As noted, we have a large Latinx population. I also have a Latinx parent meeting the first Wednesday of every month in the evening. We invite all of our Latinx families into our building. The meeting is facilitated in all Spanish. One of my school counselors is Spanish. One of my MLL teachers, they facilitate the entire meeting. We have people come in from the community. We had, when immigration was a big thing, it still is, but when it first hit back in January, I wasn't afraid to have immigration lawyers in and talk with our Latinx families about the do's and don'ts and what your rights are and what people can and can't do. So walk through Wednesdays in a Latinx family meeting has really, really helped shift things and let people know that we're not playing about education, and we're here to save people's lives. Honestly, I'm not a medical doctor, but I consider myself a change agent and a lifesaver. So I know that was more than one thing, Dr. Smith, but I'm sorry, I had to touch on it.
Oh no, they were two powerful things. So I'm glad you brought that up, because Wednesdays pop at your school. I see, the first Wednesday of the month be on and popping. We doing walkthrough, and I'm glad you brought up the walkthrough Wednesday, because that's when we were on our School Leaders of Color Network meeting, and you talked about that. That's when I DM'd you like, hey, I need to talk to you. I need to get you on the show, because I'm in the process now of basically building a process so we can do something like that at my school, because we have some amazing things going on. And I'm a big proponent of, if you don't tell your story, nobody's going to tell your story, and so that, I've already met with my senior leadership in our district, and we're, trying to put some things in place so that we can do that work, because I don't know if people know the great things that are happening at Grandview High School. Like I said, we're at an academy school, high school, wall-to-wall academies. Every one of our 1,200 students are a part of some pathway, either in the engineering, manufacturing, technology, health sciences, the arts academy, or in business. And so we're doing some phenomenal things, from our culinary arts program to our broadcasting program. Like I said, my producer, Whitney Smith, produces our fully student-ran news broadcast that's done twice a month. Our advanced manufacturing lab, where we're having students walking out of school. We have a partnership with KCNC Honeywell, and they hire usually 3 to 4 kids right out of high school making $65,000 because they know how to do advanced manufacturing. So to have people come in and see, like, this is what we're doing here. This is how we're changing not the trajectory of kids, but families in this work. And then you talked about the Spanish piece. And I'm glad you touched upon that, because something that we just started 2 weeks ago. It was Spanish Heritage Week, and we did it just because it was that weekend. We're like, no, we need to keep doing this, because we see the things. We now do our announcements in both English and Spanish for students in the morning. And that has just really changed, made our Hispanic students feel more connected to the building in that process. And then the one thing I'm going to touch on before we move to the next piece of the framework is something I'm stealing from you again. Pressure is a privilege.
It is.
It's a privilege. And I don't think people understand that there. And everything that you talked about, not once did you talk about numbers. And I think so many times that the impact we have is far beyond the number. It's about the people. It's the people that we serve. And your walk through Wednesdays and you meeting with those Latinx families, it's transformation in motion. Like that's what true transformation looks like in the process. And with that, we're going to jump to next steps. And I'm actually do something that's hard for us to do as leaders, especially when you're an effective leader. But I want you to look ahead, okay? And I read a little bit about you. I did my little research and everything like that. I know the amazing things you've done at your school. It's a nationally recognized things that they've done. I know you also mentor young principals. You engage in some equity work across Connecticut. But what's next for you? What do you see as the next frontier of educational leadership for Dr. Lewis?
You know what? You're probably the 20th person to ask me that question, Dr. Smith, in the last 5 days. Seriously, I get asked that question a lot. Quite honestly, I don't want to use the word comfortable. I love what I do at the middle school level. I love, again, going back to pressure is a privilege. I like the idea that I can have an impact on two of the most major transitions in the kid's life, that 5th to 6th grade transition, and then that 8th to 9th grade transition. I feel fortunate and blessed that I've been placed in the middle school that I can have my hands in that, the transitions that kids are going to go through in their life, not only academically, but socially and emotionally. So my next steps, I'm going to continue to, as you said, sharpen iron with other iron, talking with you. I appreciate this space. Anytime I have a chance to chop it up with Black principals or principals of color, I really take that advantage and I take it to heart because there's not a lot of us in the nation. There's not a lot of us in our respective states. So for me, next steps, I don't want to say I'm comfortable where I'm at, but I love what I'm doing, Dr. Smith. I don't know if, a central office position awaits me or something higher than that, but I like where I'm at right now because I'm hands-on with staff, I'm hands-on with kids, and I feel that I can have my best impact and my most impact there. This is year 15 in the same building, and I have, I have brothers and cousins, and I have a paraeducator in my building, 2 paraeducators in our building that they were there when I was an assistant principal. So other than I tell myself I'm getting older, I like to see that fruition. One of them is, on their way to get their master's degree in teaching. So those are the things that you see. You talked about those quantitative data points. It's not always about the quantitative point. It's about people. It's about seeing people come full circle and realizing their potential and knowing that you had some type of impact on that. Whether it was coming in 5th to 6th grade or leaving 8th to 9th grade. I feel fortunate and blessed to be in the position I'm in currently.
And Dr. Lewis, I'm gonna make a pivot I don't think I've ever done, and I probably have, but not to this extent on any of the episodes I've done in the previous 10 episodes. I see you got Dr. Martin Luther King in the picture behind you that I just keep getting drawn to. You talked a little bit earlier about your faith. And I feel like this is a confirmation moment for me. And I don't know if it's gonna be a confirmation moment for you as well, because you said that, I'm like the 20th person in the last 5 days to ask you that question. And I've sat in that same seat for the last week or so with people asking, what's next? What's next? What's next? And I have really sat and pondered that question over the last probably month, to be honest with. I got 2 books coming out within the next 6 months. And then 2 weeks ago, I met with PSRS, which is our retirement system here. And they told me, you could retire in 8 years. And I'm like, I won't retire in 8 years, but that's the first time. And I said, but I love what I do. Like, I love could I go to central office? Probably could. But I am right where God wanted me to be. And I told people this, that every person has asked me that question. I've told them this. I said, so many times we spend so much time waiting for, talking about the next season that we miss the current season, not knowing the season we sit in now, we pray for in the last season. And that's where I'm at right now. I want to enjoy this season. I want to get everything out of this season. And then when the next season comes, I'll do it then. But I'm in a part of my life where I'm no longer looking for the next season because I'm so blessed in the season I'm sitting in right now to be the principal at Grandview High School is a blessing and an honor. And to be honest, just last night I was talking with one of my APs who came from middle school. He asked me, would you ever go back to middle high school? I said, at some point I am going to go back to, because I'm a middle school person now, through and through. Like middle school is my heart. I tell people all the time, either you middle school or you ain't. You can't fake being a middle school person.
No.
I said I was presented with an amazing opportunity to go be the high school principal in the same district I was the middle school principal in. My class of 2027, I've been their principal since 6th grade. I said that's something I'm gonna be able to say that a lot of people don't get the opportunity to say. I was this kid's principal from 6th grade to graduation. That's why I went to the high school. I said, but I love middle school. It's just something about a middle school kid that you get to play a part in their lives. In my 20 years of education, I spent 15 of them at a middle school level. But when you say, I want you to, you sit there and say, I don't know what the next season is. I don't know the next season, but I'm going to enjoy this. And so when you said that, it was just confirmation for me that I'm right where I'm supposed to be, and I need to focus on where I'm at and not worry about what's coming next. So I appreciate you for giving that to me. That's what I'm going to take away from today's episode.
I'm taking a lot away from this. This is a great conversation, Dr. Smith. I love it.
Once again, I appreciate your time on this Saturday morning, sir. And we've made it to the final piece of our framework. It's called gems. I call it the gem drop. We're gonna give you the full screen like we've been doing, and I'm gonna set you up with this here for this gem drop. I want you to give one piece of advice to a young educator stepping into leadership, or maybe a school leader trying to build equity-driven culture in their building, or even a community who wants to support a school in a real and lasting way. If you had to give one piece of advice to any of those people, you pick one or you go where you want to go, but like this is your moment. When people walk away from this interview, you want them to walk away with what?
I want them to walk away with, thank you for the sentence starter. Thank you. Appreciate that. I want you to walk away with knowing that as a new leader, the good Lord has blessed us with 2 ears, 2 eyes, and 1 mouth. We need to listen. As a new leader, you need to listen and observe twice as much as you talk. That's really, really important. We all want to go in and change the landscape of buildings right away. You're a new leader. You want to change this. You want to paint. You want to change the bus schedule. You want to change arrival, dismissal. Just sit back, listen, observe, talk less, so other people around you and your eyes and ears can do more. You have to take in, you have to look at data points. You just can't go in. And it's been the constant theme this morning, Dr. Smith. It's incremental change. You can't change things until you know what's going on already. And you can find out what's going on through what you hear and what you see. Another gem I always talk about is progress, not perfection, which you've alluded to before. Anytime we talk about small incremental change and it leads up to sustainable outcomes, it's got to be done in a way that's incremental and that people can manage. It has to be chunked, pretty much like a lesson in the classroom. Something else that I drop on a new leader or community members, I would also talk about all of our meetings being positive, purposeful, and productive. Right, that every time we walk into our building, we have to be deliberate, intentional about everything that we do. We do that by remaining positive, purposeful, and productive. Again, I talk about core values. Your core values have to be who you are in whatever setting you're in. At Ponus Ridge, we talk a lot about RBC, and RBC is an acronym for relationships before content. You've got to get to know who your kids are before they're going to be willing to listen and learn from you. So we're really, really intentional about teachers standing outside of their classroom doors and greeting kids as they come in and asking them how the football game was over the weekend and X, Y, and Z. And, you have to first, create a relationship with a kid, and then you have to build on that relationship. And then once you've created it and you've built on it, then you've got to maintain it. So we talk a lot about those things in our building. And yes, we're going to get the grade level standards and we're going to do all those things. But we have to make sure that kids know that we have their best interests at heart from day one. Other than that, I've got a couple others, but I'll stop there, Dr. Smith, because we can talk for hours. And again, I love this time. I love to be able to chop it up with like-minded people and leaders in our profession that are doing the work, not for the titles, not for the awards, not for the rewards, but for knowing that you're giving back, right? Right. I said education is the great equalizer. And I do take, the things that I do, and I can see that you take the things that you do personally. And it's hard not to wear the fight on your sleeve every day, because it is a fight, because we are literally change agents and trying to change the life trajectory. And I said of kids, but you're right, of families, right? You said you just one year academies, you can leave the high school and you can make $65,000, right? You know how long it took probably both of us to get to $65,000. It wasn't 18 years old, I tell you that. But see, you've provided opportunities for kids in your building that's going to attract kids, right? That they're going to learn that advanced manufacturing, and they're going to have a positive outcome at the end of June when they graduate. That's fantastic. I didn't have that when I was in high school. I don't know if you had those opportunities, but we're changing the landscape for kids and families, and providing opportunities for kids that look like us to, be the best that they can be. And I love doing it. And I can tell you love doing it as well. So let's keep up the good fight, brother.
Dr. Lord, I said this is the second time we've had a chance to chop it up. It will not be the last for sure. I just wanted to say thank you for your leadership, your vision, your example on how incremental change creates lasting impact for, like you said, not just kids, but families and an entire community. Mm-hmm. To our listeners, he's dropped a lot of wisdom. He did some work in his gym drop as well. What I'm going to say, what I'm taking away from this, I'm not going to even ask you to take it away. I'm going to tell you what I'm taking away from this conversation today is that progress is greater than perfection, and consistency is what builds culture. Like, that's the focus of work that we need to do. And before I shut down and close out this episode, I would be remiss if I didn't shout out my amazing, dope producer, Whitney Smith, who's always making me look good in the background. Shout out to you, Whitney. Like I said, I can't speak highly enough about Whitney and the work that she does. People, please make sure you go out and follow us on X at Dr. V Smith and the BlackPrint PC. And don't forget to subscribe, share, leave a review on YouTube, wherever you're listening at. Share this with somebody, a leader who needs to know that the progress they're making is making an impact. Until next time, this is the BlackPrint Podcast, where we believe dreams are reality when culture is intentional. Thank you for joining us on the BlackPrint Podcast, where dreams become reality and culture is everything. Subscribe, rate, and share with someone leading with purpose. Stay connected to the BlackPrint. We're building more than a brand, we're building legacy. Follow us on X at BlackPrint PC and Dr. V Smith. This show is powered by Dreams Made Real, where dreams become culture. When I had the red and black lumberjack with the hat to match.